Good morning, everyone. I would like to take a brief moment to say thank you to the Remillard family and the staff at the IEFA for inviting me to present a few thoughts on the strategic role of a U.S. ambassador in today's world, especially from my vantage point as a former U.S. ambassador to the Dominican Republic. I would also like to say bienvenue to our Canadian and French friends who have traveled to our beautiful Sunshine State, and to those of you who have traveled from around the globe to be here today. Y especialmente muy buenos días a todos mis amigos de la República Dominicana y América Latina. Thank you. Bravo to everyone from FIU and the support staff for making this event so meaningful, thought-provoking, and informative. But before I begin, I would be remiss if I did not give a special shout-out to my husband, Richard, who has always been by my side, and my beautiful daughter, Juju Bernstein, the executive director of this forum. Many of you have become my family, colleagues, mentors, and friends who have been the compass that has guided me, pointing me in the right direction and inspiring me to reach great heights, especially when challenges confronted me as a U.S. ambassador. Many people have asked me, how do you become a U.S. ambassador? What does a U.S. ambassador do besides go to cocktail parties and host parties? Believe me, it is a job that requires a 7-day-a-week commitment, creativity, resourcefulness, and true grit. And I believe that you will see this as someone from the new ambassadors that have just been nominated to serve. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra to Canada, Mike Huckabee, Israel, Sonny Perdue, China, and Ron Johnson to Mexico. Spectacular choices, and I congratulate them all. As the U.S. ambassador, our main responsibility is to speak for the President of the United States in the countries where we serve. We work with the State Department to deploy what is known as an integrated country strategy and work with our team, the State Department, and our country partners to achieve and monitor mutual goals set out before us on an annual basis. Also, our key mission as ambassadors, however, is to take care of the Americans who live, work, and travel there. When I was in the DR, there were approximately 3 million Americans who visited the DR, and we served approximately 250,000 Americans who lived or worked there. To achieve these goals, I developed a strategy which I called SIDE, S-I-D-E, Security, Investment and Trade, Disaster Preparedness, and Education. Polling showed us that citizen security, the S inside, was a key concern to both Dominicans and Americans alike, and so it was one of our most important shared challenges. In that regard, we had nearly a dozen U.S. federal agencies directly involved in counter-narcotics efforts, human trafficking, crime and violence prevention, and capacity building for police and the justice system. And I'm proud to tell you that under my watch, we secured, tracked down, indicted, and extradited the biggest narco-trafficker in the Caribbean in the last 20 years. Some of you may remember the tourism crises that we encountered during my tenure in the DR. Remember death in the Dominican Republic? However, that paled in comparison to the worldwide crisis we encountered during COVID. On a desert island, on a small island in the Caribbean, people were sick and dying. We had no access to vaccines, and the embassy was constantly being shut down or in quarantine due to our employees getting COVID. Normally, in a calendar year, we issued approximately 100,000 visas in the DR. But during this time, our windows were closed for almost 8 months. We had to help over 30,000 American people leave the country in a matter of weeks. It was pure chaos. Foreign investment also was at the heart of the I inside. So we made it a goal to bring the Development Finance Corp, or the DFC, formerly known as OPIC. It had been inactive for over 20 years. As a result, through the DFC, we mobilized nearly $20 million to help entrepreneurs, women, and small business owners develop their businesses. And in the fall of 2020, right before I departed post, we signed an MOU with the DFC and the Dominican government for $2 billion for infrastructure projects. We worked hand in hand on nearshoring or friendshoring opportunities with AmCham DR, the American Chamber, and which eventually led to nearshoring legislation by the U.S. Congress. This serves as a major opportunity, and I'm hoping that in the upcoming Trump administration, that our countries will take advantage of this legislation and funding. The D inside stood for disaster preparedness. A small island in the Caribbean is prone to extreme natural disasters such as hurricanes and earthquakes. We partnered with their Center for Emergency Response, their COE, to help their communication system and for early responses so we could communicate effectively throughout the island. We worked with the Department of Commerce, or NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that's a mouthful, to launch underwater gliders and to gather data from the ocean to improve hurricane forecasting in the Caribbean and the Atlantic. We held seminars for businesses to make them aware of things they needed to do to upgrade and safeguard their companies and to build resilience to human and natural disasters. We held safety seminars for our employees and citizens and prepared videos in both English and Spanish showing them how to make disaster go bags for emergency evacuations. I think, though, what the most lasting impact was our strategy to work with U.S. Southern Command to secure mobile hospitals and with ventilators. They arrived just in time for the COVID response. Were we able to treat thousands of patients, but during 2020, we provided thousands of pounds of PPEs, ventilators, and equipment to address this dire emergency. The E inside, and one of my favorites. I've always believed that education is the key out of poverty, and therefore we were always at the forefront looking for new ways to bring reading, online learning, partnerships, research, and technology to the students in the Dominican Republic. Our embassy supported programs through many educational initiatives through the agency known as USAID. We held the Florida DR Higher Education Summit to facilitate teacher and student exchanges between Florida and the DR, ending in 12 new agreements. We reached over 400 schools with our literacy development program and trained over 600 English language training specialist in 1 year alone. As a woman ambassador, I was keenly aware of a personal obligation to promote programs for women empowerment and safety. So we launched the pilot program, the Academy of Women Entrepreneurs, to teach, train, and mentor women ages 18 to 35 to become successful entrepreneurs. We partnered with the Ministry of Health to launch, We partnered with the Ministry of Health to launch a new vitamin program for pregnant women called Vitamin Angels for at-risk mother and children to reduce preventable illnesses and reduce infant and maternal mortality. We initiated a $20 million microloan program through OPIC, now the DFC, with Citibank to support women-owned, women-led enterprises. Also, we worked with the Ministry of Women and fought against gender-based violence and supported human trafficking efforts to rescue victims of sexual predators. During COVID, we even gave the fashion industry $100,000 grant to make medical gowns, caps, and booties instead of fashion dresses and designer attire to assist an industry that was completely devastated during COVID. Now, I would be remiss if I did not mention baseball. Do you know that over 11% of MLB baseball players come from the DR? And how about our Juan Soto, the Dominican superstar who just signed a contract with the Mets for $765 million? Sorry, Yankees. So, during my tenure, we created an umbrella program that we coined as SAFE, Sano, Asegurado, Formado, y Exitoso, after a young Dominican baseball player lost a leg and several toes due to an injection of steroids meant for a 1,000-pound horse. This program supported a healthy and secure future for young Dominican student athletes, and I am very proud to say that we are seeing the results of this program finally moving forward. In conclusion, being a U.S. ambassador was one of the greatest honors of a lifetime given to me by President Trump and his administration, and I will always be grateful for that opportunity to serve in one of the most wonderful countries in the world, the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is such an important ally, neighbor, and friend who voted with us in the U.S. over 98% of the time for the UN Security Council. Thank you, DR. Yes, there were great challenges, but as you heard from Minister Bissono, there are incredible, incredible opportunities. These challenges were one that my embassy team, the State Department, and the Trump administration met and overcame with great resourcefulness, diligence, and success with our mutual country partners, especially my good friend, President Luis Abinader, and his administration and staff. And speaking of the upcoming Trump administration, people have asked me, many times, well, how does one apply for a position in the upcoming Trump administration? So, here is their website, TrumpVanceTransition.com. For any of you that might like to submit a resume, there's your website. May God bless the American presidents and all who serve their respective countries. May God bless all of our nations with peace and prosperity now and in the upcoming year. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year to all. Thank you. God bless you.